requirements limiting obstruction of visibility, or any other requirements of the zoning ordinance. The proposed amendments would allow pool equipment, pool sheds, accessory structures up to 150 square feet, and mechanical equipment HVAC to be at least 10 feet from side property lines and 20 foot from rear property lines, instead of at least 15 feet from side property lines and 25 feet from rear property lines in the RS1 zoning district. The current rear yard setback requirement has been in place since 1981, and the current side yard setback requirement was increased from 10 feet to 15 feet for all structures, with some exceptions, in May 2000. The applicant submitted the application after learning that a recently constructed pool cabana does not meet the current 25-foot rear yard setback requirement. Town staff has determined that the proposed amendments are consistent with the town's currently adopted comprehensive land use plan, and town staff recommends approval of the application, provided that the proposed amendments are revised so that they only apply to pool equipment, mechanical equipment, or HVAC, and accessory structures up to 144 square feet. So just as a side note, current requirements, 15 feet, 25. The proposed language would be 10 feet, 20 feet, and it would apply, as the applicant has proposed, it would apply to pool equipment, pool sheds, accessory structures up to 150, and mechanical equipment, HVAC. Town staff is only recommending approval of pool equipment, mechanical equipment, HVAC, and accessory structures up to 144 square feet. I will note that it is a common concern and question with respect to sheds that are 144 square feet or less, HVAC equipment and pool equipment, where property owners and contractors are surprised in some cases that a shed that's 144 square feet or accessory structure or pool equipment has to meet the same setback requirement as the house does. It's something that I've had to explain, and I don't mind doing it. I'm just noting it so that you all are aware of kind of how staff is approaching this, is that it's a very common question and concern when folks that aren't aware of it are made aware of it. And it's not uncommon for jurisdictions to have two different setback requirements, one for principal structures and one for accessory structures or smaller structures. So that's just a little bit of insight into our opinion and why we have that recommendation. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer them, or I can try later on after you hear from the applicant.
Yeah, and can I just for information purposes, can you pull up 36202, the intent of that section?
The RS1 Single Family Residential District, this is 36202A, the intent. The RS1 district is established to provide for the low-density development of single-family detached dwellings in an environment which preserves sand dunes, coastal forests, wetlands, and other unique natural features of the coastal area. The district is intended to promote stable, permanent neighborhoods characterized by low vehicular traffic flows, abundant open space, and low-impact development on the natural environment and adjacent land uses. In order to meet this intent, the density of population in the district is managed by establishment of minimum lot sizes, building setback and height limits, parking regulations, and maximum occupancy limits for single-family residence use as vacation cottages.
Okay, thank you, Wes. Well, I'm going to tag on one statement that was made from another land use discussion. It might have been lot coverage or residential or commercial or mixed use, but I thought it was appropriate to read this in to the end of the intent that Wes just read for 36202. It has been consistently endorsed over the years by a vast majority of our residents as well as our seasonal visitors. To vary from this original vision for our town would run counter to the wishes and desires of its residents and visitors as well. And with that, I would invite Mr. Osmond up to go over why he's here tonight.
Good evening, Planning Board. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm a unique situation here, I think. I'm a 21-year resident of Southern Shores, and I'm also a general contractor. I do a fair amount of business in the town. I presented an application to build a pool cabana to the town. It was approved. We built it, and of the condition to be compliant with the town, I was asked to get an as-built survey. I did. When it came back, one corner of the building was perfect 25 feet on the setback. The other corner was 24.4, if I'm correct on that, Wes, 24.4 feet. The only thing that I can think of is when we set the string lines to put the pilings in the ground, when the guys set the piling, they set them on the opposite side of the line of where they should have been, because a piling is 8 inches and we're basically just 8 inches over the line. The town alerted me that I was not in compliance, so I am trying to get in compliance. And I spoke to the town and they said, you have 3 or 4 options. Apply for a zoning text amendment, apply for a variance, go to the people that own the lot behind and see if you can't buy a foot of their property. So I was advised by the town, the first step would be to come for a zoning text amendment. So that's why I submitted it. I can also tell you that as a contractor on the Outer Banks, I get a lot of people that now when they build their home or rental properties or whatnot, they want these lavish outdoor living areas. And in Southern Shores is very constricted on what you can and can't do. I understand that a pool can go into the setback. The pool deck can go into the setback. The driveway can go into your setbacks. Certain things like that. So I had a job I just finished. When the house was built in 1996, the setback was 10 feet on the side yard. Well, we had a propane gas tank on the side of this house. The new current setback is 15 feet, so I had to come into compliance. Well, what did I have to do? The only thing I could do was relocate the gas tank to the front of the house. So now I have a gas tank on the front of the house. And I just feel like the town has some constricted regulations that if we could gain just a little bit of space, it would help everybody out in trying to get people outside and use the houses and the beautiful outdoor space that we have. I used my lot as an example. I live on 11th Avenue and my lot is about half acre. It's 92 feet wide by 222 feet long. When you do the math on that, that comes out to 20,424 square feet of my lot. If you draw out your front yard and backyard setback and your side yard setbacks, in my particular lot, that comes out to 9,760 square feet of land that I cannot build the building envelope of my house on, or a house. So that basically leaves me a plot of land in the middle of my whole lot of 52% that I can build on. Now, if you take that 52% and then you put into the 30% lot coverage regulation that Southern Shores has, I understand that, again, pool decks can encroach and driveways can encroach, but the building envelope of the house, if you take 33% of that, that only leaves you 3,199 square feet, which is 15.6% that you can actually build the building envelope of your house on your land in Southern Shores. And it seems like it's very constrictive, and everybody wants a 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 square foot house now with a swimming pool and a hot tub and all this outdoor living space. We have such a small area that we can actually build on, that if we could get a little bit of graciousness to allow a pool cabana to set 5 feet into the setback, whether it's the back or the side. I'm not asking to go to the property line or anywhere even close. All this started because of a mistake that was made. I'm here to own up to it. I made a mistake when the cabana was built. It's 7 inches over into the setback. Other towns, not all of them, but other towns, and I know we're not other towns, but they have something that they call contractor's errors and omissions, where if a contractor built something and it encroached into the setback, for example, in Nags Head, they have a 10% errors and omissions. So in my case, if Southern Shores had that same 10%, I would be given a 2.5 foot encroachment into the backyard setback. And if that was the case, then this particular pool structure that I built would be compliant. I'm not asking for everybody to be able to just automatically do that and get that. But the only way that I can see to fix my problem is get a zoning text amendment to give us a little graciousness to build out our property a little more, or apply for a variance, which I understand how variances work. I had to get one on my personal home in Southern Shores in 2005 when I bought it and renovated it. I had some decks on the back of the house that were in such disrepair. We tore them off. And then when we put them back, I was encroaching into my backyard setback by a foot. And this was back before everybody had cell phones and everything. But thank God I had some pictures of the decks before and after, where there was a tree that literally grew out of the ground, made a right angle, and then made another right angle where you could see where it was currently growing around my decks. So I was able to put the decks back the way that they were, and everything was okay. If I can't get so I understand variances, you have to prove a hardship, and a hardship is not going to be, oh, well, you screwed up building, whatnot. But in this particular case, I would basically have to tear the whole building down and rebuild it at a cost of $35,000. And we're talking 7 inches into the setback. So I feel like this would not only benefit me, but it would benefit everybody in the town, that they could use a little bit more of their land for some outdoor living space for people to, enjoy the beautiful place that we live. That's basically it in a nutshell, what happened. I made a mistake. It wasn't like I did it on purpose. That's obviously why we have rules and regulations, and we have as-built surveys to be in compliance. But I feel like there needs to be some kind of, if the zoning text amendment doesn't go through, I will apply for the variance, and I will also talk to the right people in town to see how we could propose to the town council a contractor's errors and omissions thing for something like this that happened. Thank you all for your time. I appreciate any help you can give me on this matter.
Okay, thank you. Don't stray too far away from the podium. We may ask you to come back up. Right, yeah. Well, and I should have prefaced your talk with, we're not up here to do anything site-specific. And I admonish the town planning board that this is not site-specific to any particular site. This is for the entire town of Southern Shores.
RS1 district.
Yeah, in the RS1, yeah. Thank you, Wes. So, and I don't think you disclosed where the property was that you're having troubles with, and that's fine. We don't need to know because you are submitting a zoning text amendment for the entire town.
Correct, yes, sir.
Anybody want to have any questions for Mr. Osmond or for Wes?
I have one question. In your recommendation, Wes, you mentioned accessory structures, but you did not mention specifically pool sheds. Would a pool shed be considered an accessory structure? Is it?
So that's kind of the question. How do you define pool shed? So I would say a pool shed would be a form of accessory structure. So that's why we would say, if we are going to move forward with it, we would recommend that it just say accessory structures and not specifically call out pool shed, because there's no definition for pool shed.
So it could be a cabana with a TV as well, because and we don't have accessory structures defined.
Structure accessory is defined in the zoning ordinance.
Okay.
And it would apply to accessory structures up to 144 square feet. So accessory structure could be a shed, it could be a pool shed, it could be a cabana.
Could be a cabana.
Mhm.
Right.
And it's no more than 144 square feet. And a little bit of background on the 144 square feet is currently, if someone wants to build a shed that is 12 by 12 or less, 144 square feet or less, no building permit is required, but a zoning permit is required. That means it has to meet lot coverage and setback requirements. If it's greater than or equal to a 12 by 12, if it's greater than 12 by 12, i.e. 12 by 14, 12 by 13, greater than 144 square feet, it requires a building permit and a zoning permit. So that's why the applicant had requested 150. We are suggesting the 144. And that's based on that 12 by 12 threshold.
Oh, sorry,
12 by 12 is,
144 square feet.
well, I know, but I mean, it's a large room and it's bigger than just putting pool equipment in an HVAC system. I mean, it's a bigger complex that you're using. And by moving this, you're encroaching a little bit further on the setback, with a larger building, because they can go to 144 square feet. I mean, we have a neighbor who went in, it was all treed when we purchased our half-acre lot, built a house, and they took down all the trees, and now the noise level is changed completely. And now if we allow a 144 square foot structure to even come closer, and that can be a cabana with a TV and a bar, I mean, you're talking now even more noise. And I think the intent of what you read was that we're in a residential community, and that was the intent of, our, development from the very beginning. And I think here sitting, as planning board, we got to think about our community of people who are moved to Southern Shores for that residential feel, and not get into, and I understand as a developer, and I understand people wanting to come in and big build houses, but are we a residential community or are we a vacation community? And if we're sitting here making a decision, that would lend us to think, okay, this is more for vacation than it is for residential. And I'm along the line of more residential, and we built a second garage on our property, and the back end of it was offline, and they had poured the slab, and we had to move the structure, and we still have that slab. So those things happen, unfortunately. And, if you're not, on the line, then you have to make it right.
Wes, just to confirm, 144 square feet, however you get it. It doesn't have to be 12 by 12. It could be, it could be a rectangle. rather
It could
than
be a
square.
different dimension, yes,
But
sir.
at 144 square feet, you can have power run to it, you can have water run to it, and you can have HVAC, like a outside wall unit,
Provided they are
Split.
permitted.
provided that they're permitted. And you would be able to get a permit for that if it adhered to lot coverage and setback. Is that correct?
If there was a shed, 144 square feet, it could have lights in it, and, yes, sir.
Can I get you to pull up those pictures I sent you today?
Yes, sir.
I was just out buzzing around Saturday. It was so nice. And on my bike, and about the time I was finished up going home, I went, shoot, I should have taken some pictures of some pool situations. I don't have a clue who that belongs to, but I'm glad it isn't next door to my house. It looks like a walk-in refrigerator. But, I mean, and nothing we do is on the aesthetic end.
Right.
It is setback and lot coverage, setback in this case. But that's one over in Chickahaw. You can go to the next one, Wes. That's also one over in Chickahaw that I happened to build for a family member. And believe me, it's shoehorned in there for 15-foot setback on the side and 25-foot setback on the rear. And I was sweating bullets to make sure that we got it in there, just like you probably were. But that is the front of it facing the road, and then the back side of it, and that's bigger than 12 by 12. Well, that's the back side of it, and it's got a little bar area, outside shower, changing room, toilet. But it worked, and they've got a swimming pool off to the side as well. I don't know if it's shown in that picture. Okay, the next one is just an equipment platform. And it probably is about the same size as an HVAC platform would be. And it doesn't have anything. And unfortunately, I live next door to that. I would go out there and help him build a screen. I mean, he's a nice neighbor, but that platform counted, I believe, Wes, didn't that count at lot coverage on the final?
They can be exempt. I can't, in this case, I don't recall, but
Yeah. Anyway, that's three examples of one that's kind of rough looking, one that doesn't have anything on it, and one that looks pretty nice out there. So I'm kind of following along what Jan has said as far as, man, you hate like the devil to, force the law as it stands. But at the same time, this is for all of Southern Shores, and we've been very conservative over the years with how we view our zoning regulations. Charlie?
Yeah, one of my questions was why 144 instead of 150? You answered that because you said that 144 is already defined as an accessory structure. It doesn't require, the 150 was a sort of, maybe that was what the structure you had was 150, but that makes sense. But one question I have is HVAC equipment. To throw that in is actually quite a big deal because we're talking, if you talk about the side setback, we're talking about a 33% reduction in the allowable side setback for the whole town. And on the rear, 20%, setback reduction. And I don't know about you, but I find HVAC equipment and all these heat pumps all year round, you have noise from those. And you have essentially a not insignificant change in the minimum setback from the neighbor's house. It's not so much the property line, it's the neighbor's house. The neighbor's house can be 15 feet from the property line. And so you're going from 30 feet to 20 feet difference in terms of the distance that your bedroom is from that HVAC machine. And I think that that's pretty significant change. And it seems, the applicant makes a good case that it's a good thing in principle to have people outside and these outside rooms and pools and so forth make for a healthier community. But these aspects of the change infringe on the neighbors' peace and quiet as well. And it does seem that the case which was described, a variance, seems to be much more appropriate to the particular circumstances of this rather than a full policy change. And especially since according to the staff report, the increase from 10 feet to 15 feet was adopted in 2000. So, not 26 years ago, and the 25-foot setback in the rear has been in place since 81. And we've had the lot sizes that we've had ever since then. So I think it seems minor and 8 inches in all, but it potentially could have a bigger impact, especially if people took advantage of the full 5 feet.
Wes, can you pull up the other 2 pictures that I forgot that you all will recall when he pulls these up? Yeah. Remember that one?
Yeah.
That was actually came in for a variance and we granted it. You all remember? Mm-hmm. The circumstances were, in this fellow's case, to refresh my memory, Wes, he had an older survey that he was permitted on, and then and he moved the shed to the direction of consulting with staff, and then he had to move it again because that thing was either going, and I don't know how big that shed was. Do you recall?
I don't recall. It's larger than 12 by 12 because it required a building permit. But yeah, there was an older inaccurate survey.
Yeah, but it was a mistake, just like yours was a mistake. I mean, I can see how a string line could go to the back side of the piling rather than the front side of the piling. But we gave the variance because a mistake was made, and the cure was either to have it right there, which is on the side of his house, or at the front of his house. The front of his house would have passed without getting a variance, but I mean, that's no work of art there. And I wouldn't want it next door to my house. But anyway, he went through the variance procedure and he was granted a variance by, I think, everybody on this board. You were all sitting on here, weren't you?
Yep.
Just throwing that out there.
I do have kind of another opinion to add to
Sure.
everybody's thought process. So, we are the most conservative when it comes back to setbacks throughout all of the other towns. So speaking of noise and bringing it up, it's definitely a thoughtful consideration. I don't know how to quantify the noise difference at 20 versus 25 feet, or how to, these are all worries, but I don't know what the multiplier actually would be in that 5 foot. And I talk to people a lot. I have a lot of people that I'm sure, as you do, as members of the planning board, concerned citizens that may bring you their own concerns. One this weekend was that somebody told me she'd like us to take down gas blowers and they're too loud and we should ban gas blowers. So I think there's always something to be said about noise complaints and wanting the recreational residential area that we have. Now, there is a component where things get stale if they're not touched, if there's not new considerations coming in. And so, from 1981, I don't know if any of you guys have the same car from 1981. If you have the same kitchen cabinets from 1981. And, there's something to be said about revisiting this as a whole. I know there is a circumstance that is not on us to correct that has brought this conversation up, but I think it's a valid conversation to have. Even looking at the vehicles that were driven in 1981 versus what's now. I can't say that because I was born after that point, but we have bigger vehicles, we have bigger garages, we have bigger footprints. There's a lot of people that are using their houses in a different way. And I have young kids here, and we love to be outside. We don't want to be confined to our home. We do have some outdoor amenities outside. We have our little boat, a little, outdoor pool. We have on our site plan a little pool house as well. That is fine where it is. But I definitely think there's people that are using their properties in a way that is natural and cohesive to what we were established on in town of Southern Shores. But take into consideration how much things have changed. I think a 5-foot difference right here is a conservative way to move forward and to allow a little bit more usability outside and give, the quality of life we all want here on the Outer Banks. So, 1981, it's just hard when something hasn't been touched that long. And obviously, again, in 2000, but it's something even the HVAC units. If you bought an HVAC unit 5 years ago and you see the HVAC units we're installing now, they're double the size. So it is it's a good topic to revisit. I feel like it's a small change that could be beneficial to the community as a whole. So
Another question. I wanted to clarify earlier when I was speaking that all of the things we're talking about, mechanical equipment, pool equipment, and accessory structures, they are included in the calculation of lot coverage.
Unless they get the exemption,
What is the exemption?
the open slided deck exemption.
Oh, okay. They could be part of that.
The 25% of the footprint, if you provide stormwater certification.
Right, yeah.
And
I'm familiar.
eaves are exempt as well.
Eaves and steps.
Eaves, yeah.
Okay.
Um, back to what you said, Natalie, and I hear you. I got kids that are older than you are, which that doesn't seem right. But I don't have an 81 car. But I don't know, it's been a few years ago, not that many. I doubt too many of the old head died off since we've had a survey here. But when the last survey was done here, it was overwhelming. The respondents wanted to keep the setbacks, keep the lot coverage, keep the height restriction. It was overwhelming how many people wanted it to stay the same. And there's a reason for that.
And that's a good point too, just, doing another survey. I know in Kildable Hills, we did it every other year just to get continuous community feedback. And then we alter kind of our land use and it gives us direction as a board,
Yeah.
but, something
And
to
it's
think
just
about.
a counter to, what you see as a young adult and what I see as an old adult.
Yes.
I have a question, and I don't mean to pose it like to Jan or anyone in particular. If the HVAC or pool equipment, like the green example you showed, or the green property or whatever, if it were required to be screened in some way with lath or, 50% screen to reduce the noise and visual change. Because we're not talking about changing the 15-foot setback for a structure, except the accessory thing. But but only for HVAC or pool equipment, just those things, which can be a good little node sticking out. But if it were screened appropriately, it would reduce the sound and the visual. And right now, there's not any screening requirements that I'm aware of, or if they are, everybody's violating.
Not for residential, for commercial, I think we have
Yeah.
screening for HVAC, but not residential.
And it would probably be a covenant issue. I know back in the dunes, the north end of Southern Shores and a lot of those newer covenants, Nikki Hayes, who was a big part of this community, you got to screen, all that stuff. Remember? these covenants in the newer sections required screening. I'm with you, but what's your take on screening equipment?
Like I said, we do it in the commercial district, and I would have to look into it as far as its applicability, if it can be applied in the residential district. I'm not 100% sure.
What about LP tanks? I thought they had to be screened.
Not in residential.
What?
LP.
Gas tanks.
They may be by covenants, as Chairperson Ward said, but as the zoning ordinance, I'm not aware of a screening for tanks.
The exemption on the slatted square foot, is that an exemption, like a separate kind of option? It's an optional thing.
It's an optional for lot, that applies to lot coverage, not setbacks.
So is there a way to structure this so that putting your mechanical equipment is optional? You can put it in the setback. It's optional, but going with that option means that it has to be screened. Or will the state allow us to require it to be screened?
And who's
Maybe,
going to
that's what I say.
determine the type of screening?
I would have to research and see if there are any restrictions on that. I don't know off the top of my head if that's something we can.
I would
Put
doubt
into the-
as a town, we could legislate screening for equipment that is within the setback. I mean, I'm doubtful, but
Well, we're legislating it if you want to step out of the setback. The setback is still 20 feet, 25 feet or 15. Except for, you can place HVAC equipment, pool equipment in the setback as long as you screen it.
yeah, I mean, that and in addition, the ZTA before us tonight also wants pool sheds and accessory structures up to 144 square feet rather than 150, but it,
Also, maybe clearing the lot even a little bit further since you have additional 5 feet,
mhm.
I mean,
Well,
there's a lot of stuff
I've,
with changing a setback.
Can you do pool equipment in 3 feet?
probably 4 would be. I mean, most heat and air guys say 4 feet.
They want 4 feet.
Yeah. Well,
4 feet.
I'm okay with doing the mechanical platforms within the setback. But I'm not okay with changing our whole zoning ordinance for setback for accessory structures. And I'm not quite sure what a pool shed is. I don't know if that white thing
Well,
was,
he's good, he drops it as accessory structure.
Well, that's the applicant's language versus staff is recommending.
Staff recommendation is.
If it were to be approved, that's what we recommend. But the applicant's language is the 150, and has pool shed in it.
But a point of information, that's different from an accessory dwelling unit, right? You
Right,
couldn't
right.
live in it anyway.
We don't allow it, we still do not allow quote unquote accessory dwelling units. We allow accessory structures with living space. And those structures, it would be difficult to do at 150 square feet.
but it would be legal if you could do it, wouldn't it?
140.
Technically, yes.
You can get a toilet and a sink.
I don't know. I don't know. But accessory structure, whether it doesn't specify whether it has living space or not. It says
Mhm.
accessory
Oh, I see.
structure.
So it could be an accessory dwelling unit and you could put it on, as a, what do they call this, small houses or mini.
Yeah.
An ADU, you could put it on Airbnb if you wanted to.
That would be so difficult for all the building requirements for your toilet, your bathroom, all the spacing for plumbing, to set a bed inside a 12 by 12 structure with a
Oh,
restroom.
You could do
Oh,
it.
they
I
have,
don't think so.
they have those pull down things that go like this. Oh, yeah,
Go to
But
Santa Monica or Venice, California.
yeah.
But you,
I mean,
to,
144 square feet is good size, 12 by
12
12.
by
yeah,
12 is
to
the
what
box.
you were saying, Charlie, it's just the accessory structure.
Right.
Um,
Well, the text amendment proposal from staff wouldn't say anything
Not
about
proposed
pools.
from staff.
Yeah, it's,
Pardon?
It's not proposed.
It's Mr.
Staff is not
Osmond.
proposing this
Right,
application
all right.
or any language.
Right, the language proposed by staff, or the staff recommendation is that we replace pool structures with accessory structures.
Well-
Because accessory structures are already existing in
can,
the,
can you pull up?
in the code.
Well, and that's why.
It's
Set it.
defined already, we don't have to redefine it.
Can you pull up
But it can
the
be-
ZTA,
Yeah,
the text of, sorry.
it can be.
And real quick, I
Um,
just wanted to note also at some point in your discussions, and we have one other member here in the seat, in the audience. If he should be, he should have an opportunity.
We'll let you this time.
Before you get to your vote, he should have
Sure.
an opportunity. to speak.
Well, yeah, and you might as well hop in now. And
I do apologize for being late. I had tonight's meeting with Kildover Hills confused. I was very involved when the setback thing was changed in 2000.
I'm gonna interrupt.
Oh,
the
I'm sorry. My name is
statement.
Duke Garrity. I'm with the Outer Banks Home Builders Association. I'm the Government Affairs Director. I was very involved in 2000 when the ordinance was changed. It was changed under the guise of fire protection, that they could get a 30-foot ladder in between the houses. If there was 30 feet in between the houses, they could get to the roof of it. In the parking lot, one of the members of the planning board who was adamant in it says, I really don't give a damn about the fire. He says, we come around the bend and Pine Island was just being built, and that all those houses, one on top of the other, are what we don't want to see in Southern Shores. Now, there was no chance of that going to happen. You got 20,000 square foot lots here in Southern Shores, so it wasn't going to happen. There was a problem, and it's still, we hear about it in every single town, that you have tourist developments, tourist neighborhoods mixed with the residential neighborhoods. And there's two different uses to them, and they didn't want the big houses. So the idea of the 15-foot setback was pretty much to make the houses a little bit smaller. At that time, an 8-bedroom house was considered a very big house. They were very happy with 4 or 5-bedroom houses, and the Outer Banks was changing. There wasn't many swimming pools. I remember sometime in the late 2000s, early 2000s, there was only one pool company here. Houses didn't come with swimming pools. So we got the ocean. What do we need a swimming pool for? Now there's a swimming pool in every house. So maybe it would have been a little bit different. Maybe that's what you need to look at right now. That's a different use of the houses. People are paying a lot of money. A lot here was $35,000. Now you're paying $200,000 and up for a lot. Plus the house. $1 million is not a big deal anymore. So for that kind of money, the people want to have a nice backyard. They want to have a pool structure. It would be nice if we could fit a bathroom and things in the backyard. They don't have to go into the houses. But almost every house now has a swimming pool. It's functionally obsolete, they call it, if it doesn't have a swimming pool and you can't use the yard. Noise was never taken into consideration. All right. To put a screen around to require a screen around the heat pump or the pool equipment, there was a law, I think the state statute in 2015, if I think it was Senate Bill 25, if you want to look it up tomorrow. No town will be able to enforce exterior appurtenances. In other words, can't tell them what kind of doors, what kind of windows, shutters, and things like that. That was forbidden in 2025. In 2015, it was Senate Bill 25. I remember that. That was also the same bill where it said you couldn't zone by the number of bedrooms, because it was starting to become a lot of complaints. It was mostly up and down the coast. It wasn't just the Outer Banks. It was Wilmington, Carteret County also. So people have pools now. They need the extra little bit of square foot for pool decks. Wooden decks slatted not lot coverage anymore. If they want to go back to wooden decks that are slatted with, as long as they're not above concrete or something, as long as it's permeable underneath it. But I don't think it's going to change any neighborhoods to change that setback to 10 feet. I don't believe it would. It just seems, it's something that's cut and dry. I was glad to see that the planning department recommended the change. And people, I said, they're paying a lot of money for a house, and they just want that little bit extra to make it a little bit different in the backyard. And I appreciate you giving me the time to speak for a couple minutes. Thank you. I'll answer any questions if you have questions. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dick.
I took a trip with a granddaughter. She's in UNC medical school and she's now at a hospital in Wilmington. And we went out to Wrightsville Beach and Carolina Beach and all of that. And it is totally different than what we have here. And they even now pay for parking. I sat at the Kitty Hawk Town Planning Budget Meeting the other night because I'm wanting the old post office, or the old police station, which was the old post office, for Dementia Friendly Coalition. We want our own brick and mortar. So I've been sitting through meeting after meeting, and, they talked about moving their lot lines for pool equipment to 5 feet, and they're also concerned about the look and the community. I just don't see us becoming a community of all the beaches that are south of us. We are popular now. Yes, prices are going up, but we have something unique. And maybe I'm looking at the uniqueness of that. I am on a half acre. I don't have a pool, but I can walk to the ocean, and I'm in my yard 24/7. We enjoy being outside. We have the gas fireplace. We play in the yard. The grandkids come. We toss the ball, and the whole yard is used. It's not a pool. So there is another side to all this, and I'm just, speaking my mind.
I don't know if it was Charlie or Natalie that kind of prompted me to throw this out there. And, all this that we're talking about tonight could get undone by the legislature. I mean, what is the status of that bill that's been sitting? And you may know this, as far as taking away the autonomy of a town with zoning regulations, that the state mandates that for an accessory dwelling unit, you have to, at first it was 5 feet, wasn't it, Wes?
I believe so. And none of the bills that included that or something similar to it ever passed. And I think short session convenes tomorrow.
Yeah. I
If
mean,
I'm not mistaken.
but chances of that moving forward, we don't know.
We don't.
But it could get undone. They could regulate, and it's all under the guise of, affordable housing. But they could regulate what the town's zoning ordinance would be for height, for setback, for lot coverage.
And they may do.
Yeah.
And the rationale there, though, I think has to do with preventing towns from downzoning, to prevent property owners from doing something more with their, to prevent them from
Right.
doing things that are that they're now allowed to do. This would be the opposite. We actually have a setback that's on the books for Southern Shores that we would be changing in a not inconsiderable way. As I mentioned, 20% on the back and 30% on the side. When you run that against the entire 20,000 square foot, that's a fairly significant change. It isn't for a principal dwelling or a principal structure, as Wes says, but it's not an insignificant change. And I think that's a pretty big thing to do. If the state mandates that we have to have only 5-foot setbacks, then I suppose we do, and that's the result of the democratic process. But in our case, we ought to think about, we're the town planning board, and we, as you said, Wes, we ought to be representing as best we can what we think that the citizens of this town want and why they live in this town. and what its character is. So I think we should think long and hard about this, and there may be other ways to do it. And as far as I understand, there was no case particularly that came to us about that was specifically to HVAC equipment. HVAC equipment moving it 5 feet further to the lot line would be a big change for a lot of houses, and could result in neighbors being kind of riled up.
And I don't think that is what would ultimately happen. Like pool equipment, sure, but your HVAC is not going to be that far from the house. If you have a mini split, it's a small unit.
Yeah, you can't.
Mechanically, you can't put all your equipment that far away from your primary structure.
Yeah.
So these would be like secondary equipment sites. But yeah, you know, a lot of this stuff is coming up at the state legislature because there are people out there that continuously feel like they're at an impasse or there's no movement in these things. And so, yeah, like Duke said, everybody has a pool. Everybody has, you know, these pool structures and it's something to think about. Even like we talked about, doing another survey or getting some more feedback, or maybe getting feedback on a regular basis. That way, you know, it stops and maybe it makes our meetings a little shorter because we have that town feedback and we know what we're moving on.
Well, if I may, since we've got the ZTA in front of us, I would like to propose maybe a compromise. It's not going to help Mr. Osmond's situation that I can tell, but I would like to, on line D, 4D, it says notwithstanding the above, and this is all added in on the ZTA. Notwithstanding the above, for pool equipment, pool sheds, accessory structures up to 150 square feet and mechanical equipment, HVAC, the minimum side yard setback shall be 10 feet. I would like to strike, and I don't know how much of this we can alter to present it to town council if we proceed on with this, but I would like to strike for, and have that line read, notwithstanding the above, platforms, which is an addition, for pool mechanical equipment and mechanical equipment HVAC, the minimum side yard shall be 10 feet. And we would be deleting quote, pool sheds, comma, accessory structures up to 150 square feet. So in essence, we'd leave the wording in for platforms for pool mechanical equipment, which would be like the greenhouse. That is pool equipment.
So you're going to strike accessory structures up to 100.
Right, well, strike pool sheds and accessory structures
Strike that.
up to 150 feet and replace that with, and it would read, notwithstanding the above, comma, platforms would be added. Platforms for pool mechanical equipment and mechanical equipment HVAC. The minimum side yard setback shall be 10 feet and the rear would be at 20 feet.
Now, what is the noise of a continuous running pump for the pools? I mean, is that, something that's effective?
Honestly, that thing that's the greenhouse,
Right,
they're right on the lot line.
right.
And our bedroom is fairly close and I don't hear it at all, really, I don't. And I don't think it would be any louder than any HVAC. I mean, when HVAC systems are running properly, they shouldn't be that loud.
We have a neighbor, when it goes on,
Yeah,
and it goes, so.
I'm not sure 5 extra feet would damage that,
That's true.
or dampen that, but
To your suggestion or comment about I think that goes a long way to what Wes says that he sees quite frequently from builders, that they're not used to having to include the pool equipment and the HVAC and all within the setback area. Again, Mr. Osmond, that doesn't help your situation, but I think I've also heard many people say that yours sounds like the kind of variance that might be allowed. I mean, 8 inches, is an error. That's not a deliberate kind of thing. I can't speak for that, but yours sounds like one of the few times, that this group might go for a variance. But I like what you said there. The accessory structures always kind of bug me about getting them any closer.
Yeah.
Because it's like, anyway.
Yeah, 5 feet on a 144 square foot building that's 5 feet closer to your property line
That's a lot.
is a non-starter for me. And I feel for you. Believe me, I hate to see you go through, expenses that would be, devastating for your job. But in the end, I think a variance would be the better move. And I would certainly encourage the town to, whatever a variance costs, you get whatever you paid for this, $200 credited towards a variance. Somehow, I'm just trying to be nice, but,
Can I ask a question?
pardon?
Can I ask a couple questions?
Sure, hop up.
So structures are allowed to set into the setbacks, as I understand, as long as they're no taller than 30 inches.
That would be,
Yes, sir. There's 29.9 inches or less are allowed in setbacks.
So what is the difference if it's 29.9 inches or 96 inches tall? What difference does it make? It's still in the setback. It's not compliant.
what are you referencing?
Anything. So my particular structure that I'm here for is sitting 8 inches into the setback. But if it was only 30 inches tall, it would be okay. But because it's 8 feet tall, it's not okay. What is the difference
Yeah.
with the height?
So it's the way the ordinance is written. Anything 30 feet and, 30 inches and above.
I understand that. But what I'm getting at is what is the reasoning the ordinance was written that way? Why is it okay for 30 inches and lower, but 30 inches and above, it's not?
I didn't write that one. I wasn't a part of that.
Visuals.
Wes, maybe.
I would think the shadow it casts.
It's visuals. 30 inches is like shrub.
Well, in the flood zone, you got to come up to the flood zone. So that in that greenhouse picture, that guy's down, he's like that. But in a flood zone, which we're not in that greenhouse, you got to put your HVAC or any mechanical up, to comply with flood regs.
Would that be an example of like a deck that can stick out?
So yeah, decks, less than 30, 29.9 inches or less per the
Yeah, you can-
definition of yard that I read earlier.
Right, and you can take a pool deck, whether it's travertine or tile or Trex or what have you. You can go right to the property line with that, but you got to stay away, or can't you?
But swimming pools, even though they're less than 29.9, they do specifically still have to meet the edge of the water, but the
Yeah.
pool deck itself or
That's
decks
right.
around it can go up to a property line.
Up to the property line
Right.
where the fence is.
That's right.
You can have the
That's
fence
right.
sitting right on the property line, and you can take
So going back to that,
yeah.
as Ms. Collins was stating about noise. Well, if you let a pool deck go right to the property line, somebody could be right on that line next to your house making noise. It's no different than my pool shed being 7 inches back. It's not making any more noise. It just happens to be closer to her house.
Well, it depends because that pool house now has a TV that's running and you have, bar stools and you have games. I mean, unfortunately, you cannot pick and choose what is going to be.
Man, we're talking
done.
8 inches here. We're not
It's-
talking, 8 inches isn't going to make a difference in anybody's noise.
Well,
It's not going to.
that's,
No, and
We're not discussing your specific situation in the sense of changing
Or
the, right.
Yeah.
the
Well,
setbacks.
then we need to come up with a way to help somebody out who did a good job for people and made an honest mistake.
well,
Because
you
this
know
is-
what?
And I
this
think
is
that's
ridiculous.
what they were voicing
I don't
about
think
trying
you'll get any-
variance versus setbacks.
We'll bend over backwards to help alleviate the situation that unfortunately you're in. So I don't think,
It's not, I mean, it's not the whole building. It's only a little triangle. The one corner of the building's dead perfect. It's the other side is 7.4 inches into the setback. So you got 50 feet between the two houses now. And even if it went to 40, and I just proposed 5 because it seemed like a acceptable number. It wasn't like I was trying to game the system and get it any more. I would have proposed 1 foot if it would have made a difference. And I'll be glad to go write that again if it's going to make a difference in your decision.
no, I don't think it's about your situation. It's about the town's situation and what we've discussed up here tonight. This is for the entire town. It's just not for one particular project.
Well, I understand that. I'll be glad to write it to say 1 foot for the entire town if that's what it takes. Would that make a difference?
Honestly, my gut feeling is you would do well to try this at a variance. And like I said,
Yes, sir.
I will use whatever influence I have to make sure that whatever you paid for this ETA would carry over to a variance.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, but I just have to comment. So for variances, you have to meet statutory criteria.
Okay,
And for variances, and our fee schedule cannot be waived. We have to apply.
written in stone.
We have to apply the fee schedule, especially, yes, sir.
I'm not worried about the application fee. I appreciate you trying to save me money, but I'm more worried about coming into compliance.
I'm just suggesting
Absolutely. And
variances are quasi judicial and
Yeah.
you all are required to stick to specific criteria and I would not, try to,
well, some of the hardship that's listed in variances is subjective. And we all know that. I mean,
I tried
if
to
we
put
gave
it
a variance
in the landing,
to the blue
and
shed,
I wanted to put it back in the same footprint.
I'm just saying, so you all have to consider quasi judicial applications individually and apply
Yeah.
the facts at that time. So
I
I'm trying, I would like to encourage you all to try to stay away from giving too much, commenting too much on your opinions
Right,
for a potential variance application that will be a quasi judicial matter.
correct.
correct.
I
Thank
would-
you.
Understood.
I'm just suggesting to refrain from commenting further on that.
Thank you.
yeah. Understood. Okay. I don't want to be here all night. We've beat this to death, but my motion would be just what I went over with. You want me to do it again? Or how can I put this in the form of a motion?
You could make the motion. I think I have down what you suggested. And procedurally, so this is Mr. Osmond's application. He has his proposed language.
Right.
What you are recommending is different language. So after this, if that motion carries, there would be 2 ZTAs in essence that he could carry forward. He could agree with yours and send it to the town council, or he could bring forward his and take it to the town council. So. If he does not agree, if he wants to move forward with his language as proposed to the town council, he can
Right.
still do that. Meaning you all recommended denial of that, but he could also say he wants to move forward with his application with you all, how you all recommended it.
Well, to get on the record as it moves to town council, I'm assuming that we've got to vote on a motion
Yes.
to insert this language.
If that's what you all are inclined, what you all would like to do, you all can make a recommendation to council on his application, with amendments.
But it wouldn't be a separate ZTA.
It wouldn't be a
coming out.
separate ZTA, it would just be
Right.
two different, there would be two different, the language would be proposed in two different documents.
Okay.
Could be. One was his original proposed and one was what you all recommend.
So should we vote on either accepting or denying what has been brought to us tonight first, and then talk about what you want to propose?
You could do that.
Well, I would
That
think,
makes sense, because otherwise it wouldn't make the proposal if you accepted that. I mean, if the first was in the affirmative, then you wouldn't necessarily make another proposal. You would propose two things.
no,
You could just say you recommend a ZTA, his proposed ZTA with amendments, and then provide the amendments.
first.
Just one, you all would vote one time,
Okay.
unless,
So-
unless your motion fails.
Shall I read it again? Just-
Yeah, let's
Okay.
go over what you're
Th-
wanting to
th-
change.
This is my motion. Okay? Delete pool sheds, comma, accessory structures up to 150 square feet. Everybody got that?
Yeah.
Replace with notwithstanding, and this is language directly, I'm not changing any language. This is language directly from the ZTA. Replace with notwithstanding the above, inserting in platforms, that's the only insertion, for pool mechanical equipment and mechanical equipment HVAC. The minimum side yard setback shall be 10 feet. And rear yard would be at 20 feet.
Yes, sir. So I have that. So we have a motion from Chairperson Ward.
Yeah.
Is there,
So that is my motion moving forward with this CTA. Can I get, or is there a second?
So we're basically changing this from 15 feet to 10 feet on the side and keeping the rear
We're keep-
yard at 20 feet.
We're keeping everything,
25.
yeah,
We're reducing it from 25 to 20 feet.
20. And we're reducing it from
What about
15 to 10.
accessory structures?
No,
Accessory
that's
structures
That,
are gone from both rear and side?
yes.
I see. Okay.
I have a question about the word platforms. Is that significant for you?
I don't know. I would call it a HVAC stand is probably what
The only
90%.
reason I say that is pool equipment, when we were building, that originally had recommended just some kind of a disc or something. It was just like a concrete, maybe it's not, it was not a platform is what was recommended initially. I just wanted to make sure that however you want to put the pool,
If it-
you're cool. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I nearly put stand, but platforms can be 3.5 inches of concrete, could be a slab. But just for one word, and I'll stick with platforms.
Okay.
And does this have to be visually covered or anything? No.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ed. Any discussion? Anybody? All in favor of my motion and Ed's second, raise your hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Everybody?
I don't
Natalie?
have to-
And Charlie, you're not? Jan?
Yeah, I,
Natalie?
Aye.
Okay. Aye.
got
Okay.
it.
So what's next for us?
The next item on the agenda.
Okay. Can I make one more statement?
Sure.
I really have mixed emotions about what happened up here because I was your age one time out there building too. And I know what the value of messing up is. and string lines with setbacks and trying to stay that far below the height limit. I mean, I was a small builder up here in Southern Shores, but built some pretty nice houses for my family out here on the ocean front. And it was a dance working around the building inspector and the zoning enforcement officer. And I don't envy where you're sitting right now, but I'm just hoping that you don't come away from here being upset with us as a planning board looking out for the entirety of Southern Shores. Okay. Well, good luck. Okay. Everybody ready for a bite of round two? I see we have the town engineers sitting back there, so. Wes, do you want to get us started off? Anybody want to take a short break? I doubt seriously we'll push through this tonight. What do you think, Wes?
You doubt, what's the question?
I say, what's your feeling about pushing through this with Mr. Anloff all the way to the end?
I can, it's up to y'all.
Okay.
If y'all don't feel like there's enough time, then I certainly would like to try to get through it.
Let's do it then. Okay, Joe, you okay back there?
Yeah, I feel good.
You probably need to be close to a mic. Everybody know Joe Hanloff, our town engineer.
Good evening.
Just to preface, Wes and the mayor, Cliff on Zoom or on speakerphone, and Ed and I got together last Thursday? Was it last Thursday?
Yes, Thursday.
Okay, so we kind of skimmed over and, I think we whittled down some questions that we can go by tonight. So Wes, if you can start us off, that would be helpful.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is TCA-2026-01, and this is a town code amendment request submitted by town staff. And this is a request to amend Town Code Chapter 32 Utilities. At the May 6, 2025 council meeting, council directed staff to draft town code amendments to modernize the town code. As a result, town staff has drafted this town code amendment, which includes amendments to multiple sections in Chapter 32 utilities that address wastewater systems in the town. You all were given in your packets a copy of the amendment request, the ordinance TCA 2026-01, as well as a staff report. The staff report is a kind of a bulleted list that goes through and addresses the proposed amendments. I could go through each one, or I could go page by page, but before I do that, I'll just give a summary, and then we can go from there.
Yeah.
Y'all can just let us know how y'all want to proceed. But I'll just kind of preface it by saying that the main goal, or one of the main goals, is to make Chapter 32 utilities consistent with the North Carolina general statutes with respect to the approval of wastewater systems. And that is in that the county health department or the state of North Carolina, specifically NCDEQ, they have the authority to regulate and approve permits specifically for wastewater systems. Some of the language that's proposed in this town code amendment request is new. Some of it is carried forward from existing language, and some of it is deleting existing language. If adopted, I'll just go through a few of the highlights. If adopted, the town would still have the authority to monitor the existing wastewater treatment plant in the town. That's not being taken away here. The town would still have the ability to go to the state and request information. It's just no longer mandating the town to continuously monitor the wastewater treatment plant and request reports on a monthly or quarterly basis. The town would no longer be issuing wastewater permits. That is under the authority of the state of North Carolina and the county health department. And the town would still have the ability to assess penalties, civil penalties for those who are in violation of wastewater treatment plants or wastewater treatment facilities. That's not being taken away. So in the town planning board, you all, right now, it does have in there that you all require and comment, you all are required to comment on wastewater treatment plant applications. You all would no longer be doing that, but you all still have the authority to review site plans, and wastewater treatment plan and wastewater location is still a part of the site plan review. You all are currently and will continue to be, regardless of what happens with these proposed amendments, you all review site plans for all uses other than single family and duplexes. So you all would still have the ability to review wastewater treatment plants existing or connections to existing ones, and make recommendations to the town council as part of the site plan review process. Y'all may recall that 2 years ago, we did a zoning text amendment application, and it required in there, whenever there are new wastewater treatment plants or connections to wastewater treatment plants, that documentation has to be submitted from the North Carolina Utilities Commission that certifies that the owner of the treatment facility is a public utility, is a franchise holder, and the permit holder issued by the state. That's if you are, that requires a new wastewater treatment plant. In addition, it stated that for improvements that require connections to existing facilities, that they have to provide documentation from NCDEQ that certifies that the facility is in compliance with all applicable requirements submitted with the site plan application, including adherence to permit conditions. So we're not proposing any changes to either of those. Those were two very important amendments to our zoning ordinance with respect to wastewater systems. So we're not touching any of that either. And the town engineer, Joe, thank you for coming tonight. These are just some of the highlights from that, from what we're proposing tonight. If y'all have questions, I can try to answer some of them. And Mr. Anloff, as a town engineer, he's certainly more of the expert in this field. That's why we're glad to have him here tonight. If he has anything to add from staff's perspective, he's more than welcome to add to it, or he's certainly here to answer questions.
Well, when we were together Thursday, I had scratched up some stuff on what I got, however many pages it was, 23. Firstly, let's make sure everybody's got the same, because we switched over to when you took out 36.
Correct.
It was a different line
Yes.
configuration. So and also we kind of flipped page by page, but we went through it fairly quickly, and I think we can do that again. So just for everybody's sake, go to page 2. And if line 7 says section 32-1 definitions, you've got the most current one.
Yeah, got that.
Everybody have that addition of what Wes sent us?
Yeah.
Okay, then
What's the date on the phone? Is that 4/13?
4/13.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so Joe, I think I'll flip through and you.
Well, let me just say something overall. In the world of wastewater, after the wastewater is treated, if it goes into the ground, if it's discharged in a drain field, that's the Dare County Health Department's jurisdiction. If it's spray applied to the surface or a high rate infiltration pond or a pond, that's the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, the Division of Water Resources. So wastewater is broken into two types of regulatory authority based on where that wastewater is disposed. The old ordinance gave the town a whole bunch of authority to regulate what the Dare County Health Department regulates, which is subsurface wastewater, and what the Division of Water Quality, Division of Water Resources regulates with surface application. And there was a lot of responsibility on town staff to collect information and to oversee and to regulate. and the town didn't have the staff, or really, there's some questions about whether it was actually enforceable for the town to have that authority. So having that ordinance language that, in my opinion, was taken from some other ordinance somewhere else that had more wastewater infrastructure than the town has, it, in my opinion, and I'm not an attorney, but as an engineer, it establishes a liability that the town can't back up on the enforcement side. So this simplifies it and says, if you're going to build a house and you're going to do subsurface wastewater, go to the Derrick County Health Department and get your permit. If you're going to do something like a commercial development and you're going to do a wastewater treatment plant, a package plant, and you're going to spray irrigate to reuse standard, go to the Division of Water Resources in the Washington Regional Office to get your permit. But it still gives the town the authority to say, we have questions about what's going on at your facility and we're uncomfortable. You need to make us comfortable by giving us documentation that says you're compliant with your permit requirements.
Right. Well, what I'd like to do is what we did Thursday and just flip through the pages. Like obviously page 2 is all pretty much struck out. So I'll go along and flip the pages, and anything jumps out at you, let me know. But turning over to page 3, all that struck. Line 20 is just a definition of owner, which encompasses what Wes was talking about that we had 2 years ago in the language that we adopted 2 years ago. That clarifies what the owner is. But I think all those definitions are pretty straightforward. There's some struck through on the septic system on line 36 that Joe was speaking to.
Yeah, I would say that the main thing from this page is the revision to the definition of pollution. And a lot of these definitions are taken out because some of them aren't even used.
Yeah.
We also found some inconsistencies in how something was referenced in the definitions and then spoken about in the body of the text. They were inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
There was a sort of an implied similarity, but the definition didn't match. So we just cleaned that up.
Yeah. Anybody on page 3? Okay, flipping over to page 4, I had starred the definition of wastewater systems community and wastewater systems private, and that's just what Joe explained to us. Anybody, Wes, you got any, or Joe on page 4, or what are we on? Yeah, page 4. Okay. Flipping over to page 5.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, so one thing I'll point out, wastewater system traditional, that is a new definition. And this is on page 4.
Yeah.
And that is to differentiate a regular private wastewater system from a septic system that you see in 90% of the town on a single family residential lot, your traditional septic system. So that later on in the TCA, you'll see, so that those types of systems they don't have to meet the same aesthetic requirements as a private system that serves a different use. So the point there is to create a new traditional system so that they don't have to meet the same aesthetic and setback requirements and what have you as your typical private system.
Yep. But yeah, there's community, private, and traditional
Yes, sir.
in those definitions.
Community, private, traditional, exactly.
I have a quick question. When you refer to serving more than one use, are you talking about more than one structure? Or more than one user?
It can be like a use would be a pizza parlor with an apartment above it. That's 2 different uses. One's residential, one's commercial, retail, or restaurant. So we wanted you can have multiple uses where you have, say, 2 cottages. Those are 2 uses. You can also have mixed uses where you have,
Okay, using use and
yes,
zoning. permit.
yes, sir.
Okay, great, thanks.
Anything else for anybody on page 4? I had a check by section 32.3 on line 13. Wastewater management compliance with state and county regulations. For some reason I had checked that, but it struck out. There's some additional language that is in there, and then there's some things that are struck. I think
if I recall from our meeting, you had an issue, well, not an issue, but calling out the fact that shall was struck and may is.
yeah,
added.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. So what Joe's referring to is line 24. It struck shall and put may, which is more permissive.
And that's what I was saying earlier, the state and the
Yeah.
county, they are the
We-
regulatory authorities.
Right.
We have no authority.
Right.
So just putting that in there is a feel good, but it doesn't have much teeth. And really not much oversight on the town's end. It all is coming from the state. Anybody have anything on?
Can I ask you a question? I mean, I think in general, I think this is a great effort and really well done. And it makes perfect sense that the regulatory bodies or the real authority should be clearly in charge and running this. But I was caught by the elimination of the planning board review. It seems completely appropriate. It's sort of odd that the planning board, with our limited technical capability to say the least, would have any role in this kind of stuff. But it does seem that there is an interaction between 32.4 and 32.6, which is over on page 7, where it does seem the design and appearance compatibility does seem to be a little bit of a planning board issue. These kinds of facilities would take a special use permit, presumably, of some sort, and we might get involved in the design and the shielding and the vegetation and so forth of that, which would be consistent with planning board responsibilities. Is that with the adoption of 32.4, with the adoption of the deletion, with the deletion of 32.4, would we then not be able to say anything about the interface between the design characteristics? I'm thinking of the entry corridor plan and the whole idea of having some consistent design aesthetics and vegetative screening.
Would that come under the architectural?
I don't know. I mean, it's a question.
That's kind of what when I hit on earlier, is that you all review site plans for all uses other than single-family dwellings. and
Irrespective of this particular part of the code.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
On that grounds, I have no reason to.
This part in this ordinance, this planning board review is referring to you all reviewing an application for a wastewater permit, not for the use itself. This is for an individual wastewater permit
I see.
issued by the town.
Okay.
So as the site plan is submitted and you review it, the content, on the other side, staff has their staff review comments and I have the engineering comments.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
so-
we have no capability of assessing whether or not it's safe from a pollution or from a wastewater treatment standpoint, but its compatibility with other uses.
And neither do I,
Yeah.
other than I can see whether it complies
As-
with the
right.
rules that the North Carolina Administrative Code contains.
Right.
As far as whether it's having a deleterious impact on the environment, that's where the
Right.
site plan review process, where you can request information about the performance. And then you would make a judgment as a body.
As I mentioned, I'm totally supportive of the concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll just point out, like in Article 10, administration and enforcement, application for building permits, zoning permits and site plan requirements. As y'all will recall, this is 36-299 on the screen. B Two, site plan requirements. There's a long list of things that folks have to show on a site plan. And these are all things that they have to show all these things in order for it to be complete.
Okay.
And one of those, I'm trying to figure out where it is, but there is, I think it says something to the effect of location of wastewater systems. Here it is, water and wastewater. No proposed site plan shall be accepted by the town without tentative approval of sewage treatment. That's what I read earlier, but there's another section that shows
I can give you an example.
proposed method for treating, here it is, number 5, proposed method for treating wastewater, location of all wastewater collection and treatment facilities, name and regulatory agency of the system, name and written approval for protection from any organization that will collect or dispose wastewater. So you all still have, yes, sir.
We did a site plan review for the Southern Shores Marketplace when they proposed to put a Starbucks on the repair area for the drain field. The repair area is 100%, it's an area that matches the active drain field area, and it's to remain fallow. In the event you need to repair your drain field, that's where you do it. They proposed to put the Starbucks on the repair area. I said in my review letter, you can't do that. There's no Starbucks next to the Wells Fargo on the repair area. There's a drain field there. So there is a check and balance on the technical side of it
Okay.
that these rules continue to support.
It's additional language that we
Yeah,
don't have any
fine.
authority
Well,
over, and it
It's,
just
it's economy of government, deleting.
guarantee this thing will be a third less than what it is right now.
That's
when-
great.
More than a third, I think.
Yeah, okay. I'm on page 7. Does anybody have? There again goes the design and appearance compatibility.
With the exception of traditional wastewater systems. That's what I was talking about
Right.
earlier.
Yeah, okay.
And it still contains crosstown jurisdictional limits where you can't accept wastewater from another town.
What we were talking about, right down at the bottom on around line 33, the exterior of the treatment work shall be architecturally compatible in features and materials with other buildings in the project and shall have suitable vegetative landscaping and screening to be compatible with local aesthetic and environmental conditions. Makes sense.
Yes, sir. Those, we feel those should stay.
Okay. Anybody on 7, page 7? I like this one. The treatment works shall incorporate all technological improvements which are feasible in practice as of the time of construction.
So
Got
section 32.7 transfer and permit,
Yeah,
Dare County Health Department permits follow the land. The Division of Water Resources permits follows a financially responsible party. So they're a little different. So that covers the different
yeah.
ways in which permits are transferred.
And that, to me, that is a very important section right there, 32.7.
Half of that's carried forward, existing language, the other half is new.
Right. If you recall, we had a mess of ownership and, finger pointing who was in charge of what over at one of our recent looks. Clean that up going forward. Jay, you want to speak to wastewater systems status reports?
So wastewater, at every wastewater treatment facility, well, not everyone, traditional conventional systems don't have operators and responsible charge, but systems like low pressure pipe systems that you might have a single family residence on up to larger systems like you have at the Marketplace or Gene Gite. Those have an operating responsible charge. They fill out reports, daily monitoring reports. And those reports contain chemical analysis of the effluent. They also have calibration reports on effluent meters or turbidimeters, generators. They go through an annual test to test those. So this ordinance gives you the opportunity to request all information, current up-to-date information on the operation and maintenance of that facility. And
From
the
the
last,
state. From the state.
from the state, yes. But you could also go to the operations company. I don't think that this excludes you from going to the operations company or requesting it directly from them. They don't necessarily have to give it to you, though. The state does. Matter of public record at that point. Or the local health department,
Yeah.
not the state.
Um,
Like,
I'll note that those reporting requirements are in the existing language. They're carried forward just in a new 32-8. If you look on the screen right here, D 1 through 7. And actually is that last sentence, any other information requested by the town in the reports in case something's left not there that we do think is necessary.
And that would hold up if there was some situation where we were not being given access?
I mean,
ultimately, you're going to get access
Yeah.
through a FOIA request
Sure.
at the state. They're going to,
It can be voluntary or,
everything at the Dare County Health Department that's submitted is a matter of public record. You just go request, put an information request, same thing at the state. They'll give you everything you want.
Mhm.
It's just if you go to the owner and ask them, they might not.
I have a note down at the bottom of page 8, and I know we talked about it. I'm not sure at what point. But it was, can the town require monthly or yearly reports from the owner as they become available from the state? And I know we talked about it, but I think it's, I mean, do you remember where we ended up on that? Joe, you would,
So they're technical. I mean, Ed's got a background in water chemistry. Robert has some knowledge of environmental things, so maybe they would understand what biochemical oxygen demand is, but for the most part, a lot of staff they have to be educated on what it means.
Yeah.
So you can request it and you can always have it. You can do it periodically if you wanted to. This gives you the authority to do it, but it's got to be interpreted by somebody who understands the contents.
would that be a condition of inspection added into a site plan review?
it doesn't have to be a condition because if this is adopted, it's already there.
Yeah, it's
discretionary.
there. Yeah, okay.
We talked about that from that previous incident and, we asked for, reports.
Ed got enough to slow that thing down.
Well,
And
It's
I mean,
not a-
it was lengthy.
it's not a bad idea to look in at, on some basis, what's happening there, as far
Right.
as
Right.
what the
Yeah,
effluent is. So that would be up to us to get that annually or semi-annually and just spit it out at a meeting, so everybody has had the opportunity to see where it was,
Mhm.
instead of waiting.
Is that something that we could put on the calendar, Wes? And you are responsible for getting it? Because as we go from month to month, it unfortunately gets to put in the back of our mind and we don't have it in the forefront. But if we were to do it, I think twice a year, especially once, in the summer and then once again in the winter, that would, at least for us, an education of how it changes seasonal. And if there were an alarm, it would, be brought to attention. Because I know, again, the community is aware of what's there. And I mean, your thoughts?
There are things there that I'm sure would kind of freak residents out.
So if I can offer that, a wastewater treatment plant is a living biological set of activities.
Right.
And so it's not difficult to upset the operation of a wastewater treatment plant. You can introduce toxins, temperature, all kinds of things can happen to upset the balance, and then it doesn't work right. So if you get one report that said, we're not generating compliant effluent, or part of the report says, these constituents are compliant, but this one isn't, you have to have a pattern of failure. Like you can't just be one isolated non-compliance, because that happens all the time. And Ed's right. If you knew what was going on in the wastewater industry, you would be very surprised and a bit appalled. So I think maybe a different request would be, have any notice of violation been issued on this facility in the last year? Because a notice of violation would be the state saying you have had non-compliant back to back to back, and now we're seeing what we would call a failure to perform, and there would be a notice of violation issued. That would clue you in, and the notice of violation would include details about what was wrong, failure to comply, or non-functioning generator, non-functioning blowers. It would tell you, because there's an expectation, notice of violation is issued, there should be a corrective action. And if they don't respond within a certain amount of time, then you can start to assess civil penalties. And then if you don't do that and you don't fix your facility, you go to special order by consent, which is an operational mechanism, and then you go to emergency management.
Is there somebody from the health department that also looks at all of that? I'm just,
Yes.
again, thinking worst scenario versus, somebody getting, scraped or hurt, and then they end up with the flesh-eating, bacteria. And what we want to do is prevent that from occurring. So is there somebody watching and monitoring that?
The answer is yes and no. Yes, there are employees at the health department, at the state, and it's in their job description to monitor all those things. But like almost everywhere, they're understaffed, undermanned, failure to have an adequate budget, undertrained. And so do they get to all those inspections on the frequency that's described in the North Carolina Administrative Code? The answer to that, in truth, is no.
So for us as a community, should that be on a watch list that we're aware of and that we ping to get that
Again, I would
information?
say the Dare County Health Department can issue notice of violation. The Division of Water Resources can issue a notice of violation. I would recommend that, every 6 months or year, if you're interested, that you would send a request for information, say, has this facility received any notice of violation? If so, please provide us with a copy.
Would that be the compliance report from the state? I mean, that's what.
No,
it is, isn't it?
no,
That would just be a running
it's a letter.
inspection if they had it. They're supposed to have it. What's the frequency of an inspection?
That's a permit condition. So the inspections by the operator responsible charge is a permit condition, and then the state's supposed to come out a certain number of times to visit. But that's based on the type of system, the design flow, the treatment, complexity.
I think what we found was that the state hadn't done its inspections in quite some time.
Again, I will tell you what they tell me. They're understaffed.
Yeah.
And they can't get out as frequently. They have
Right.
other things they have to take care of immediately, and those things kept getting pushed back and pushed back.
But if I remember on what you dug up, they were maybe every year. I mean, we got like 3 or 4 years. And I don't think it was a 6-month period in between them coming out and testing, tankers, Robert Tankard
And
and,
they got the reports. If the limits were exceeded, they got their hands slapped. But as far as putting eyes on the facility.
Yes.
That's.
well, as a community, if we can put some pressure somewhere, is I think what Jan is.
Yeah.
We
concerned
have
with.
twice as many docks now on Gungite Creek than we did 10 years ago. And that water is being used more and more. And, I feel if some way there's a calendar that, hey, we need a report. And again, the squeaky wheel gets the turn, if we, ping on them and they haven't done it, they'll say, oh, they're a pain in the neck, let's get it done and give it to them,
I think it's reasonable to follow up. I would recommend that you follow up on all the facilities that are,
Right.
establish a criteria and say all systems over 3,000 gallons per day, whether it's regulated by the Dare County Health Department or the Division of Water Resources, request information on any notice violation.
Don't they have a portal? We were talking about that. They have a portal where you can
Yeah.
go in and look for yourself. You don't have to call up Robert Tankard in Little Washington.
And
It's
I
on the
know-
state portal.
we have been recently occasionally,
Yeah.
since a couple of years ago, we have been checking that every now and then.
Well, every time you see Cliff, you just remind me.
Okay.
We can make sure that we check. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And actually, why not give us the link to the portal? And if you want to have a glass of wine and look and see how.
And again, I'm not sure my mind knows what I'm looking at.
Right.
You know, I want somebody who
Yeah,
is specific to that criteria that can come back and say, hey, Jan, you wanted this every 6 months. I'm looking at it and it's okay.
Yeah, we
You
can,
know,
you want the cliff note
only
version.
because then to the constituents that are out there that we can go to and say, you're okay, you know, the water's okay. You know, I don't know.
Well, I think
We
did.
talked about it. I mean, it was, you know, prior to, you know, the concerns we had when.
Yeah,
so-
oversight is good, but just, you gotta do it, and then if you don't carry on, then the information stops, you know, but.
well, the previous version of the ordinance required the town to do it, and it was never done.
Yeah.
There you have it. So we need to, peek in every once in a while, just lift the lid and see what's under there.
I mean, get Ed that portal login.
There you go. I'm going to put it on this paper. June, July, August, we get a report, then December, January, February, we get a
Sure,
report.
why not?
Let's,
If we don't provide it, you can remind us.
Exactly. There we go.
let's move along, going from page 8 to page 9. Anybody see anything that,
Well, there's your penalties for violation.
And most of this carries forward, this existing language is
Yeah.
just renumbered. The $5,000 for each violation, the town council would have to make that finding, but that's existing language.
where is it, what line is that on?
22,
Huh?
22B,
Starts on line 22, yeah.
the dollar amounts on line 24.
So how do we determine if there's a violation?
I would have to defer to Mr. Anloff.
I'd say the state determines there's a violation.
Well, but they collect their own money eventually.
This
So-
gives you the mechanism to lean on them in a similar way.
Yeah. And that's all we really.
And I would, generally speaking, I would recommend you follow suit. If they write a notice of violation, then you sit back. If they start assessing civil penalties, then you now have the green light to
Right.
add on. But a lot of times civil penalties get waived because the state would rather have the facility owner use that money to fix the facility than to pay a penalty.
Yeah, the violation of any of those things listed in 32(9)(a), these are the penalties for those violations.
I like it being in there. I mean, at least we can refer back to it if we need to.
So just for,
Let's,
yeah, bless you. Just for clarity, if, let's just say we start this pinging to get the testing, and one of them come back very high, violated in a specific area that needs attention, how do we notify through you to
It'd
the,
be through the town staff. You'd write a letter that says, we're in receipt of your notice of violation for whatever it is, non-functioning effluent flow meter. And the state gave you 30 days to respond or fix it. Update us on that response. And if they fail to respond within a certain amount of time, then the state would assess a civil penalty. And you would say, if the state assesses a civil penalty, we will also follow through with our own. The whole idea is to be able to motivate them financially to spend the money on fixing the broken effluent flow meter than to pay the civil penalty.
okay. Page 9, down at section 32. What is that? I'm making that 32. 12.
Mhm.
Yeah. I just had in my margins, an inspection by town engineer or building zoning. Once again, it's just puts, that has been reworded and pulled from existing, hasn't it, Wes?
Yes, sir. That's all. It's
Yeah.
existing minus the amendments with state and local.
Okay. Flipping over to page 10. Anybody? I was curious about section 3212, why that was taken out. The construction or modification of wastewater systems shall be coordinated with the town building inspector.
So the town building inspector has no authority to, for
Right.
wastewater systems. They, building code, electrical code,
Yeah,
not wastewater systems.
yeah. But we, last Thursday, said it needs to come out, all of it. Okay, moving to page 11. Article 2, enforcement. Every bit of that is struck.
Well, I mean, it's struck here, but like that B, that's that $5,000 penalty language that we just talked about a second ago. It's struck here, but it was moved forward in the ordinance.
Yeah.
We're keeping it, but it's just not in that location.
Mhm.
So, and that's the case with some of the language, and some of it's being deleted from page 11 going forward, going to the end of the document. Some of it's being kept and is renumbered, and some of it's being deleted.
Right.
The injunction and abatement is kept. Some of the permitting, some of the reporting, items 1 through 6 on page 13. So we kept some of it, but some of it's being taken out.
Mhm. Okay, so nothing on page 11 that we need to look at. Page 12, once again, pretty much everything is struck and realigned somewhere else, I'm assuming,
Some of it is,
or just
Kept.
gone.
or some of it's just gone, yes,
Yeah,
sir.
Most of the following pages are struck.
Yeah, I was gonna say all
what
the
was,
following.
what was that?
I said most of the following pages are struck through.
Yeah.
It's all struck, but some of it was kept.
Yeah, and relocated.
Yes, relocated.
So page 13 is the same. Page 14 is the same. Everything with a line through it either is gone permanently or rearranged somewhere else. Page 15 is the same. Page 16. Looking at. Okay, that's the same. Page 17, all struck. Page 18, all struck. Then on page 19, I had something in the margins on line 24, that portion was. Something about the certificate of occupancy. Is that where did that get moved to, or did it?
That is not, that is
That's gone.
struck and is not carried
Yeah.
forward anywhere else.
Okay.
A CO is not issued by the building inspector
Right.
unless we have an operation permit. But that's the health department that issues the
Yeah.
operation permit, or we would
The
have,
same for the state.
Yeah.
or for the state, yes, exactly.
Yeah. Same with the operations certificate certification. And just for an example, number 6 on line 27, provide the town, and it's struck, but provide the town with an operation and maintenance reporting schedule and schedule for semi-annual inspections of facility operations by the town. I mean, that was when Neil Blinken had it. That language is coming from that far back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was never done.
Page 21, all struck. Page 22, everything above line 24 is struck. In the statement of consistency and the comprehensive plan, I would say that we would agree with that, and the severability and the effective date would be if the town council takes our recommendation, I'm assuming.
If you all vote to recommend approval and it gets adopted by council, there would be a date that it goes into effect.
Do you want to just briefly, I think you told everybody in an email why Chapter 36 language was taken out of this.
There were a couple amendments in one of the earlier drafts to the zoning ordinance, like clarifying that a special use permit would be required for a community wastewater treatment system. But as we all know, there's currently a restriction on down zoning unless you have the written permission from all the affected property owners. So we took we took that out in the other amendment that were in the zoning ordinance out. So there's no question about down zoning.
But this thing has always been a town code amendment rather than a zoning text amendment. or was
Initially, it was a zoning text amendment.
with Chapter 36.
It had
language in
chapter
it.
36, it
Okay.
had, I think, 2, maybe 3 amendments. I think it had 2 sections in it initially, but
Mhm.
we took those 2 out to eliminate the possibility of a down zoning.
Okay. Well, what else do we need to do?
We recommend approval, that you all recommend approval to council.
Yeah.
So if you all are inclined, we would appreciate that.
Can someone make that motion, please?
I can make the motion
To recommend approval to the town council?
to recommend to the town to the town council
Thank you.
approval of the wastewater.
Is there a second? Ed seconds?
I'll second.
Oh, too late, Ed.
Oh, that's my one opportunity to vote.
Gotta watch out.
Don't
Moving
always
quick.
get that.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to approve this TCA to move forward or recommend this to the town council to move forward. Any discussion? No discussion, and I'll call for a vote. All in favor of Jan's motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? None seen. Recommend this to town council for their review. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
You bet.
Joe.
Thanks.
All right. Where's my agenda? There, thank you, Wes. Public comment one more time. You fellas have any additional planning board member comments? Natalie, I'll start down with you. Have you got anything?
I think finding a mediation between kind of the requests here is great. I think it gives a little bit. And as we talked about wastewater, with the septic, the repair field, all these new requirements that we do also play in shaping up our lots. It's another consideration into our earlier conversation about looking into the setbacks and how we're doing site planning. I have built about 25 houses over most of the counties, 1 in Southern Shores. So, the teeniest about it, but it's a good conversation to kind of have. And I know I would always be open to hearing more from our community and doing a survey or anything like that to really guide us in our decisions. Because we all know personally what we know, but the town is always a great reference.
Hal, I don't think you gave us any status report on your concern with the license plate readers. How did that go?
We had a mayor's chat, and Mayor Maroney said it was the largest attended mayor's chat about the flock cameras, which are the license plate covers. We talked to our police department. We had the police chiefs. We had a good amount of law enforcement there sharing their individual experiences with the flock cameras. Our police chief said his initiative was to lock down the town, is what he called it a few times, and that meant for him having a camera at every outlet coming out of Southern Shores. So I think there is maybe 9 that are ran currently by the Southern Shores Police Department, and then an additional 2 that are privately ran by the Civic Association. That information is ultimately held by Flock in a cloud system. It's not held by us. It's not owned by us. It's not on a private server by us, but we are allowed to access that information. So there is some concerns about, our public's data and, what this third-party system's handling of our data is. There were some citizens that talked about, doing data like compliance checks with this vendor. Like if this is a vendor that we are soliciting and we are giving a lot of local information, a lot of our citizens and a lot of our citizens that, like you and I, that are just day-to-day citizens, we're not under any kind of investigation or anything like that. So we're collecting all of that data and we are responsible for all those citizens' data. So we talked to them about doing some compliance checks. They are held to state level compliance of how long they can hold data. And then additionally, the police department did open a transparency portal. The transparency portal is hosted by Flock. So it's not, anything privately we are putting together. But it is a step in the right direction. All the other communities that host Flock have transparency portals. So they have allowed us a little bit of information. There's still some additional information they could provide to the public if the police department would be willing to in their transparency portal to be more like Raleigh and Hampton Roads. They have a couple Flock portals there. That one of the other areas is also success stories. So they did put in some of their success stories from there. So you can kind of read, do your own opinion about Flock. You can also look into the national cases about these license plate readers and how our data is handled publicly. And one thing I did bring up, and I know the deputy sheriffs through my conversation with the town do meet on the regular basis, but the implementation of this program, I think, lacked communication between our towns. So when you're coming into the corridor, something that we are thinking a lot about, you see about, I counted them, I don't know if there was 6, 7 cameras, something around that. When you come from the bridge to the turnoff right here onto Duck, onto North 12. So you have Kitty Hawk's cameras, you have Southern Shores Flock cameras, you have NCDOT cameras, and then so you're going past a collective of cameras. And when you lead to what is this experience? What's this experience we're giving to new residents, homeowners, guests? Are we saying this is a safe place? Are we saying we're watching you? So, it's just food for thought to think about. And I did pose just a conversation that maybe a collective task force, because we're all tracking the same identical information, that maybe we could look at that implementation as a whole and see what that looks like throughout our barrier island. So yeah, it was a great conversation. There was a lot of great input. There was citizens that were largely in favor. There were citizens that were opposed, and everybody came together and learned a lot more about the process. So I think collectively it was a great conversation.
All right. Well, thanks for the update. Charlie?
Nothing special from me. Thank you.
Jan?
No.
Come on. Ed?
Not here.
Robert?
No, pass.
I have none either. Tired. Moving along, announcements.
The next regular planning board meeting is scheduled for May 18th.
Anything looming out there that we need to know about?
Not at the moment.
Okay, May 18th.
Yes, sir.
All right. Natalie, you want to make a motion to adjourn?
I would like to make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.